And that breakthrough strategy is the strategy of focus. Focus. The strategy of focus. We all know that God does not change. Right? God does not change. So what does change?
We do, our circumstances.
Right. We do with the circumstances. Okay? So since God doesn't change, what does change is our capacity, our ability, and our perspective. That does change. The perspective that we have today is different than the perspective that we had even a month ago or even a year ago.
Yes.
So really, we are changing, but how are we changing? So how does God increase our ability or our capacity? He does so by adjusting the situations, the needs, the people, even the location of our life. God increases our capacity by adjusting the situations, needs, people, and locations, even jobs, and even the churches and relationships that He brings into our lives. A couple of friends of ours, they're married. They currently have their parents living with them. That has totally changed the way that they live their life. It changes their everyday lifestyle. And as a result, they're having to experience life from on someone else's point of view, which is really fascinating because it expands your capacity. It expands, you begin to think of how things look from another person's point of view. You began to see enormous things change with respect when your sister was sick. The change in perspective, you saw things from a different light. But, one of the things that God does in this way is He brings these situations into our life. But life is like a train. And every morning, the train pulls out of the station, whether we like it or not. We're on that train. It pulls out every day, and it's taken us in some ways to a place that we haven't been. Now, we try to control these things, but oftentimes we can't. What I find is interesting is that invariably, this train that we're on comes along the tracks, hits, or comes to a rock in the tracks.
Oh, that's good.
I'll call it an impasse. And how we deal with this rock usually reflects how God is dealing with us. How we deal with the difficulties and the changes in our life usually reflect the level that God is dealing with us, the level at which God is dealing with us at. I had an interesting service yesterday where the pastor was talking about that Advent is a season when we consider how is God coming to us. It says in the first chapter of John that Jesus came to His own, but His own received Him not. Okay? Jesus may change His appearance to us every day, but He's always coming to us. He changes his approach, and so all of a sudden, this morning as I began to do this lesson, I had something already pre-written, but I felt like God wanted me to switch. So I just said, oh, God, am I going to have enough time to do this? But like typical, I had just made it here in time, and I got here. Well, he gave me a phrase that I thought was really fascinating. You ready? And it's kind of like, it's a flippy phrase. It has several different meanings, and it's only 2 words. And the 2 words are life rocks. Life rocks. So it has that sense of that there were life rocks, and there are times when life rocks. It does, that expression, yeah, you rock. That means you really are great, you're wonderful.
We're better now.
Yes. But the reason why it's so powerful for me is because in Scripture, the phrase rock is a very, very significant
Yes.
word. Okay? And I just want to look at it. So life happens, and it usually comes in the form of a rock, or an issue, or a problem. The rock image is mentioned 3 times in the epistles, and it's mentioned 3 times in 3 verses in the book of Exodus.
The book of Acts.
Exodus.
Oh, Exodus.
Yes, the word rock. We discovered that this mysterious rock followed the Israelites in the desert for 40 years through their trip in the desert. The only way we knew this happened was because Paul writes about it in 1 Corinthians. And he says, did not all drink of the same spiritual drink? They all drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and Christ was that rock. But 1 Corinthians, I deleted it, but I'll go back to
It's
it.
okay.
You can look rock and drink, and it'll tell you. I have to put it back in this audio.
Might be 10.
So what was really fascinating to me is